Welcome back to another episode of Let's Make Dinner. However, just to start us off, this is the current state of my kitchen. We discovered a water leak from our water heater, so they have since ripped out all of this floor. We discovered under the floor that we had, the original flooring was still there, so they also had to rip that floor out. We had all these crazy fans going for a while. This is after they finished ripping out all of the floor, getting it down just to the cement foundation. Our water heater had to be put in the hallway. Our island is no longer attached, but we do still have our island, thankfully. Um, Flooring in the pantry had to get ripped out. I covered everything with towels in the pantry when they were scraping because it was just dusty, gross everywhere. This water heater closet is missing part of its wall. This happened about a month ago, and we're still doing this. But anyways, let's make dinner. I have a couple delicious recipes for you guys in this video. All of these were made while my kitchen was a construction zone, and it's been a construction zone for about a month now, so it doesn't seem to be an end in sight, but I know there will be. So just to start, I am searing off some ground beef in my large Dutch oven pan, adding in some butter just to get that nice and melted before adding in some onions. So I knew that I wanted to make something, one, delicious, and two, I wanted to do a double meal, something, because we thought they were going to be taking the island, so I was trying to do some help myself if they did take some of my kitchen counter space, but they haven't taken it yet. We've still had it for a month, so that's nice. But I decided to do some lasagna. So with some diced canned tomatoes that I had that I needed to use up from a case lot sale, I got those blended up just a little bit in the blender. To the onions, I added some garlic, Italian seasoning, salt, pepper, all the usual suspects when you are making a red sauce. And then I gave that a nice stir and just let those continue cooking for a little bit, just to let them continue sweating out. I don't have wine in my house, so I used this cooking wine just to kind of build a little bit of a depth of flavor because I wasn't going to be cooking this marinara sauce as long as I typically would like to cook a homemade marinara sauce. I was rushing, and it is what it is. I will say I was trying to dump this in my blended diced tomatoes without making a huge mess, and it was splashing everywhere. But I'm just giving those a nice stir, and then I do let them simmer for a little bit. I added in another can of just straight up tomato sauce to help create even more marinara sauce, because I felt like the 2 cans of the diced tomatoes just wasn't as much as I wanted for making as many lasagnas as I was. I threw the pound of ground beef back in, and then we're just going to pop a lid on this and let everyone kind of hang out. I think I let it go for about a half hour. Ideally, I'd let this go for a couple hours, but again, I just was in a rush, and we gotta do what we gotta do. I did end up adding, I don't think I got it on video, but anytime I make homemade marinara sauce, I typically always add a teaspoon or two of just sugar, just to cut through some of the acidity of the tomatoes, and I did do that with this one. To a large bowl, I went in with 1 large container of cottage cheese and 1 container of ricotta cheese. You could do purely just ricotta, but I like the creaminess of the cottage cheese, plus it's a protein boost, so we got that going for us. A couple eggs, some garlic. I was using the recipe just pretty much off the back of the lasagna noodles that I got, with just my own kind of substitutions. And there's my child crying about something in the background. Not sure. Not sure what it is. She's probably getting mad at a toy. We're going in with salt and pepper, and then again the Italian seasoning. I pretty much use these same seasonings in every single element of the lasagna because, that's what we're making. And then I had a bag of shredded Parmesan cheese. You could, of course, shred the cheese yourself, but I was going for ease, and I just had some on hand. Give that a nice stir so it all comes together, and then we are ready to assemble. I swear, every time I say the word assemble, I just think of the Avengers, but that's just me. So again, this is the recipe that I was mostly following when making this. And instead of making just one 9x13 pan, I decided to do two I believe the glass one is an 8x8 and the metal one I believe is probably like a 9x9. I didn't measure, I'm not sure. But I decided to do two so that way I'd cook one that night for dinner and then have one for a future dinner. Again, because I thought they were going to be taking my island. So I was trying to prepare for not having counter space. And then as I was preparing these lasagnas, I was realizing, I was like, this is a pretty thin marinara sauce. Like, it doesn't have a lot of thickness to it, so I was a little concerned. It still worked out, but I will say the lasagna noodles did kind of soak up what liquid was there. So I'm not sure if it was the fact that I used diced canned tomatoes as the bulk of my sauce, or maybe I didn't let it cook long enough to thicken and kind of become more of like a cohesive sauce. Not really sure. Either way, it was delicious. So I did sauce. We're putting in the noodles. These are oven ready noodles, meaning I don't have to boil them beforehand, and I'm just breaking them up to kind of fit the size of the tray. So kind of like a puzzle, if you will, putting that all together. Not perfect, but it works. And then I topped it with the cheese, the cheesy mixture. I will say spreading this, I had to do like one lasagna noodle at a time. Otherwise, I was just going to be like moving it all over. So that's my tip, is just to kind of spread it over one noodle at a time before moving on to the next. If you enjoy this content, if you would give this video a like, think about subscribing to the channel to see more delicious food videos, and go ahead and leave me a comment. Are you team red sauce? Team Alfredo sauce? What's your vibe? I personally like both. My husband seems to like red sauce pasta dishes over Alfredo sauce pasta dishes, but I pretty much do either. Obviously, lasagna, we're doing a red sauce for this meal. And I'm just continuing with my layers as we're going along. And there we are, all done with the layers. Magic of editing. And I just topped that with some of the shredded Parmesan cheese. I didn't use quite all of the bag when I was making the cheese mixture because I knew that I wanted to put some on top. The one, I sealed them both in foil. One, of course, I was going to be cooking that night. And then the next one that I sealed in foil was for a future use. I didn't do it here because I wasn't thinking, but I did end up taking the foil off, putting on some plastic wrap, and then putting the foil back on since it was going to be sitting in our garage fridge for a couple days. And then you'll notice by the date that I write on this that I'm about a month behind in my editing and posting of videos, just chaotic chaos and everything. But it's lasagna, and I made this on the 18th of October. Here is what it looked like when we cooked up the first batch. We had it with some corn on the side, some garlic bread. It was really delicious. Again, the noodles did tend to soak up the sauce, but it was still really good. Next up, this was, what do I have in the freezer? What do I have that's easy to cook up from the pantry? So I went with some Korean barbecue ramen noodle packs, but gave it a little boost with some chicken, and then you'll see some mushrooms as well. So I just seasoned those pretty simply with just some salt and pepper before placing them in my hot skillet, and then seasoning the other side again with salt and pepper as well. I could have done a little more with the seasoning, but considering that these are going to be paired with a ramen noodle that had its own Korean barbecue sauce, there was going to be enough flavor in the dish that I wasn't concerned. While the chicken was finishing cooking, I started to prep my mushrooms. So I do wipe these clean with a damp paper towel. That's typically how I clean mushrooms, and then get them sliced up, giving the chicken a nice little flip. I did have some sticking in the pan, which is always annoying, but maybe I didn't put enough oil. I'm not really sure. But I did get it flipped, and then I did get the chicken chopped. And there was a couple pieces that I wanted to cook a little bit extra, so that's why there's some chicken pieces in here. And then I had melted some butter, added the mushrooms. Once the mushrooms got pretty cooked down, I then went in and added in some garlic, gave those a nice stir. And then these noodles really only need a very short amount of time, so that's why I saved them to the end. I got these, it was a box of 12. I got these at, I think it was Ross. Yeah, I got them at Ross. Wasn't sure if they were going to be good, but they were. So I was pretty excited about that. They come in these cute little neon looking highlighter color packs. I will say it is annoying that the ramen noodles are again wrapped in plastic inside of a package. I thought that was seemed redundant. But then each one comes with its own sauce packet as well. So I get each of my little discs into my water. No, my pot is probably not big enough, but it all works out. And then I just let those cook as per the package instructions. Again, it's not very long. I did add the chopped chicken back into the pan with the mushrooms, and then I added in the Korean barbecue sauce packets just directly to that because I'm gonna add the noodles into this pan as well. And since this sauce is on the thicker side, and since we're not just eating it with simply the noodles that it comes with, we're bulking it up with the chicken and the mushrooms, I decided to spoon in a couple ladles. That's not even a ladle. It's a very shallow spoon. Couple shallow spoonfuls of the starchy pasta water, just to kind of help make sure the sauce is able to be over everything that we're including in this dish. And then I'm going to drain the pasta noodles and get those added as well. Mixing everything up definitely took a little bit of time just because these ramen noodles didn't really want to incorporate with the chicken and the mushrooms. So it just patience and it all comes together. This was a really easy meal, nothing super fancy. I would say if you want to like make it even fancier, you could do a couple like jammy, semi hard boiled eggs on top. That's always really good with ramen. But otherwise, easy, fast meal with what we had on hand. Now we are making some white chicken chili because I was craving this. And I was like, I need it. I have to have it. So I did. So to my Dutch oven pot, I got some butter and onions going. Obviously, I normally do the butter first, but I think I got ahead of myself. So I just did it at the same time. Once those cooked down for a little bit, I added in the garlic and then let them continue cooking. Going in with some cumin now, just all your typical suspects. Some chili powder. I always have to dump it because it never comes out the little holes on the top. So I'm always worried I'm gonna just end up with like a mountain of chili powder. And then some salt and pepper. To that, I rinsed and drained a can of corn and a can of white cannellini beans. And I'm just mixing that in, getting it all incorporated with all the spices and the onions and garlic. It smells so good. I want this again now as I'm like making this video. I had a leftover Costco rotisserie chicken, and that is where this delicious shredded chicken meat came from. Delightful. I would say it's probably about a cup and a half, maybe 2 cups that I just pulled off the chicken. I added in a small can of diced chilies and then a can of basically Rotel, but it's the Walmart version, so diced tomatoes with even more green chilies. Gave all of that a stir, and then of course we need some liquid, so I added in an entire carton of chicken stock. That's 4 cups worth. Now normally with white chicken chili like this, I do go in and add cream cheese, and that's kind of like my thickener. And I thought that I had cream cheese because I had everything else to make this, and I didn't have to go to the store, like make a special trip. But then I realized, as I needed to add the cream cheese, that I didn't have the cream cheese, and I did not want to go to the store just for cream cheese. So instead, I decided to make a cornstarch and milk slurry. So not quite the same as if I had added in a block of cream cheese, but it still gave it a little creaminess, thickened it up a little bit. It was definitely more of a white chicken chili soup, but I served it over a little bit of rice just to kind of give it a little boost, a little extra something, and topped it, of course, with cheese. But it was still all of the classic flavors, everything that I was craving. It hit all of those for me, which is what I wanted. So again, I just topped that with some shredded cheese, some crushed up tortilla chips. Delicious. Definitely hit the spot. Definitely one to think to add to your soup rotation this cold season. But thanks for watching, and I hope this inspired you to make something delicious.